Mr. Hadžić, please continue. Oh, just one moment, Mr. Hadžić. There is a short oral ruling. On the 1st of July, the defense filed a motion to amend its Rule 65-ter exhibit list with the addition of 214 documents. Of these, a total of 47 documents are intended for use with Mr. Hadžić during his testimony, and the defense requests that these documents be dealt with on an expedited basis. The prosecution responded in relation to these 47 documents via an email on the 2nd of July and through oral submissions on the 3rd of July, today. These 47 documents include 10 documents which were disclosed by the prosecution to the defense on the 2nd of June 2014, 32 documents which were provided to the defense by Serbia on 3 January 2014, and 5 documents which the defense labels as other relevant documents. The Chamber notes that as of the 2nd of July 2014, an English translation was not available to the Chamber in e-court for 26 of these documents. After considering the submissions of the parties, the Chamber is satisfied that, taking into account the specific circumstances of this case, good cause has been shown for amending the defense exhibit list to include the 10 documents disclosed by the prosecution on the 2nd of June 2014, for which an English translation has now been provided in e-court. The Chamber notes that the bulk of the 32 documents from Serbia are untranslated, and the prosecution objects to the addition of the others. The Chamber will consider the addition of these documents after all the translations have been provided and it has received a full response from the prosecution. The Chamber considers that the defense has not demonstrated due diligence in adding the 5 documents labeled as other relevant documents to its Rule 65-ter exhibit list. However, with the exception of 1D03571, the documents were originally disclosed by the prosecution and therefore have been in its possession. The Chamber accordingly will allow the addition of 1D03567, 1D03568, 1D03610, and 1D03611 to the defense's Rule 65-ter exhibit list in the interest of justice. The Chamber will issue a decision on the addition of 1D03571 in due course. Mrs. Ivanovic, please continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I will tender the document 1D397.
Admitted and marked.
Exhibit D108, Your Honor.
Thanks.
May we see the document 1398? 398. 1D398. Jel možete da vidite?
Can you see the photo? Answer, yes, I can. Question. Was that photo taken on the same occasion as the previous one? Answer, yes. The occasion was the same, so the day was the same.
I would tender this document to Your Honor.
Admitted and marked.
Exhibit D109.
Thanks.
Gospodine Hadžiću, ja bih vas...
Mr. Hadžić, in your binder, immediately at the beginning, there are two photos, 399 and 400. I'm going to show them to you. But before that, could you please tell me whether you possibly think that they should be shown to the public, or are there any reasons for those photos not to be shown? Because I'm going to ask you about the names of the persons depicted. Answer, there's no reason not to show the photos.
Da li se možda sećate?
Do you perhaps remember when this photo was taken? Answer, I don't remember the exact date. I believe that it was taken in 1989. It's a wedding photo. Certain people got married. Could you please tell us their names? Answer. This is the wedding of my friend Goran from Dalj.
I would tender this document too.
Mr. Stringer?
Objection on relevancy grounds without more foundation, Mr. President. I don't know that this Mr. Hadžić bears any connection to the case. It's a wedding photo.
Through these details, we will find the exact date of his marriage. It was only purpose why I put this question.
The previous photos with his 1-year-old son were from which year?
For his first birthday, he answered this. As far as I
He answered.
recall.
He answered the question, but I don't have it in mind. What was the date of the first anniversary of your son, Mr. Hadžić?
8. oktobra
8 October 1988.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this... Okay, please continue, Mr. Sivanovic. The objection is overruled.
Sorry, is it tendered?
I thought you were... you're not going any further into this photograph and the exact date of it?
I'll not. I'll try to find the exact date of their marriage. And
Okay, admitted and marked.
Exhibit D110, Your Honor.
Thank you.
and please have a look at the photos 1D400. Da li možete da kažete
When was this photo taken? Can you tell us, please? Answer. Well, when I look at my daughter, I would say that it was taken sometime in 1986 or 1987, in the summer of that year.
Thank you. I možete li da
And now can you please look at 1D401? That's another photo.
Mogu?
Of course. Question, can you tell us when this photo was taken? Answer, I believe it was sometime in 1985.
Hvala vam.
Thank you. Mr. Hadžić, when you spoke about your hobbies and when you mentioned dog breeding and sports, tell me, have you ever had an interest in poetry? Answer, no. Question, did you write poems? Answer, no, I did not. Question, did you love to read poetry, attend recitals, readings of poetry? Answer, well, that's different. I used to read poetry with my girlfriend, but never with a male friend. Maybe I read poems to my girlfriend when I was in high school, and I attended one reading of poetry with a friend of mine, Branko Kovačević, but that was before the war. He was a writer. Question, was he an author? Answer, he was a poet, amateur, and he published a collection of poems. The promotion was in Vukovar. The presentation of that book was in Vukovar.
Od kad ste vi
Question, Mr. Hadžić. Can you tell us when you became involved in politics? Answer. Until the outbreak of the war, I was never seriously politically involved. All my activities were at the level of my village and my local commune, not even at the municipal level in Vukovar. My first position was as president of the SDS in the municipality of Vukovar. That was the first relatively high position for me. And before that, I was as secretary of the youth organization of the League of Communists in my village. I was a deputy in the Municipal Assembly of Vukovar. That was my first real political position, a deputy for the SDP party. Question. When did you become a member of the League of Communists? Answer. As soon as it was possible by the rules. When I turned 18, I was then in my third year of university.
Kakav je bio stav te partije?
Question. Can you tell us what was the platform of that party regarding the national issue in Yugoslavia? Answer. The position of that party was that all nationalities and nations, as has been stressed many times, were equal. Question, what was the position of that party toward the preservation of Yugoslavia and the very existence of Yugoslavia? Answer, well, at that time, until Mr. Račan changed his position, there was no other option except united Yugoslavia.
Yes, sir.
Maître Zivanovic, excusez-moi. Juste une question de clarification. Hein. Transcript page.
Mr. Zdivanovic, I just want a question to clear something up. Line 14, page 63. Is it correctly written, when the witness turned 18, he was in his 3rd year of university?
To je greška.
Witness, that's a mistake.
Da,
Question. I will repeat the question just in case. I asked you when you became a member of the League of Communists of Yugoslavia. Answer. My answer was when it became technically possible, that is to say, when I turned 18 and I was in my 3rd year of high school in Vinkovci. 3rd year of high school, not university.
Merci.
Judge Mindua, thank you very much.
Rekli ste da ste...
Question. Did there come a time when that party changed its name? Answer. It renamed itself from the League of Communists of Croatia into the Party of Democratic Change, SDP.
Da li ste vi
Question. Did you remain in the party after it changed its name? Answer, yes, I did.
Kako je bila
Question. What was the ethnic structure, the ethnic composition of that party? Answer, you mean in the whole of Croatia or in Vukovar municipality? Answer, to the best of your knowledge, you can tell us about the whole of Croatia and the municipality of Vukovar. Answer. At the level of Croatia, it was majority Croat because Croats were in the majority, whereas in the municipality of Vukovar, I would say it was half-half. Perhaps there was a larger number of Serbs, not by much, but I'm not quite sure.
Recite mi samo da li je...
Question. When the party changed its name, was it before the multi-party system was introduced or on the eve of multi-party elections? Answer. Since I am testifying under oath, I must stress I'm not 100% sure. I will tell you my opinion. I believe it was during the transformation before the multi-party elections when different parties were created in Croatia, including the HDZ, the Croatian Democratic Union. It became a little bit passé for the party to call itself League of Communists, so they changed their name.
Recite mi, molim vas...
Question. Tell us, please. In those multi-party elections, did you participate in any way? Answer, yes, I took part. To the utmost of my ability, I invested all of my time and effort to help SDP win.
Možete li samo da nas podsjetite ko je...
Question, would you remind us of the year? Answer 1989, 1990. In fact, it was early 1990 because the second round of elections was in May 1990, so the first round must have been 6 weeks earlier, April 1990.
Vi ste malo pre to rekli.
Question. You said it a moment ago, but I will still repeat the question. Were you elected to some position in those multi-party elections? Answer. In my local commune, I was elected on the SDP ticket as deputy to the Municipal Assembly of Vukovar.
A kako je sama ta
Question. And how did the party fare at the elections? Answer. At the republic level, it lost because most Croats voted for the Croatian Democratic Union. But in areas where Serbs were the majority, it won, as it did in Vukovar.
Kad kažete da ste vi izabrani u Skupštinu,
Question. When you say you were elected to the Municipal Assembly in Vukovar, can you tell us whom did you represent there? Which parts of the municipality of Vukovar? Answer. I represented my village, Pačetin. It was they who elected me.
možete li sada da nam kažete
Question. Until what time did you remain a member of the SDP party? Answer. Until June 1990.
šta se
Question. Was there any event that made you leave the SDP? Answer. There were constitutional changes to the constitution of the Republic of Croatia, and Vukovar was required to accept these changes. Together with some other deputies, I advocated a rejection of these constitutional amendments because the new constitution of Croatia envisaged an independent Croatia, separate from Yugoslavia. I did not have specific reasons to fear this option, but I felt it was not a good thing. So I addressed the assembly and said that our mandate was to represent citizens of a united Yugoslavia, and nobody had the right to interfere with that mandate. And a large part of the population of Vukovar voted for staying within Yugoslavia. So without changing their mandate, without a right from their without the acceptance of the citizens, they couldn't do it. Question, could you please speak more slowly? Answer, it was resolved by a compromise. The municipality of Vukovar proposed amendments to the constitution, which were crucial, essential, but nobody paid attention. When the vote came, I was one of the few who voted against, and all the media reports said that Vukovar accepted the constitutional changes. Nobody mentioned that Vukovar actually voted for amendments to the new Republic of Croatia constitution. And I continued advocating remaining in Yugoslavia, of which we were all citizens.
Hoćete mi reći da u to vreme
Question. At that time, alongside SDP, was there any other political party in Croatia that worked for Croatia to remain within Yugoslavia? Answer, there was a small party that nurtured its own legacy of the so-called Socialist Alliance of Working People. There was a gentleman called Mažar who headed that party, but they had no serious political weight and they disappeared from the political arena very quickly.
kad ste vi
Question. When did you find out that there was a Serbian Democratic Party in Croatia? Answer. Now I know that it was established in February 1990, but I didn't find that out immediately. I learned perhaps in March or in April from media reports.
A šta ste
Question. What did you hear about the party? What did you learn about that party from media reports? Answer, well, I cannot tell you very precisely. You can tell from the name that it was a Serbian party, that it was from Knin, and we learned that it was in favor of a united SFRY, that is to say, for Croatia to remain within United Yugoslavia. That was roughly what I knew about them. But in my mind, that option was closer to the right, whereas I was closer to the center, or perhaps leaning a bit to the left, because the HDZ was extreme right, and the SDS was leaning to the left. And perhaps just because this Serbian in the name, it seemed to me that it was leaning to the left. But I knew that the extreme right in Croatia was represented by the HDZ. Question. When you talk about left and right, you mean political orientation? Answer. Yes, but I'm telling you, that's what I thought about the SDS at the time. All I knew, in fact, was that it was Serbian. And later on, I realized they were a center party.
Još nešto bih hteo da vas pitam.
Question. When was the first time you heard and learned more about what happened in the Second World War to your parents and other people? When did you get a more detailed explanation? Answer. In my family home, there was no talk about it. It was just once mentioned that our house was burned down during the war. That's because our father at some point wanted a bank loan to restore the house, and when he was refused, he said, "Our house was burned down in the war and we can't even get a bank loan for it." I learned mostly from other people, from general conversations. I didn't find anything out from my parents.
Recite mi, molim vas,
Question. At that time, was any distinction made And what kind of distinction between Croats on one hand and Ustašas on the other? Was there a distinction? How was the word Ustaša used, if at all, in your circle? Answer. It was... Those were two totally different things. Ustašas fought together with Hitler, and we, both Serbs and Croats, fought against them. And when I grew up and at our gatherings there was talk about Ustaša emigres who must not return to Croatia, people who blew up cinemas and railway stations. In my mind, that was such a small fraction of the Croatian people. 1 in a few thousand. But then the political situation changed, and those people who supported these emigres started calling themselves Ustašas, but still there were not a large number of them. That's what they called themselves. I repeat, they were not ashamed of it. They were even proud of it.
Prema vašim saznanjima,
To the best of your knowledge, we're actually talking precisely about that now, this very small group that call themselves Ustašas. To the best of your knowledge, what was their attitude towards the Serbs? Answer, well, I heard of that saying that the position of the Serbs, of the Ustašas, was that 1/3 of the Serbs should be killed, another third should be christened, and a third should be expelled. I heard that while I was still in politics. So they were intolerant of the Serbs to a maximum. And they were very, very strongly in favor of an independent Croatia. Perhaps that was their dominant characteristic.
a možete li da mi kažete
Question. Can you tell me
generalno stav Srba u vašem
generally what was the position of the Serbs in your own setting about this proclamation of Croatian independence and secession? Answer. First of all, we did not believe that this option would work because it wasn't the policy of the Croatian people. When we wondered about whether this option was at all possible, we were afraid of it. This happened in the late 1980s. There were many people who were direct participants in what happened from 1941 to 1945 that were still around at the time.
Možete li mi reći čega su se to ljudi...
Question, can you tell me what it was that people were afraid of? Answer. Well, when people would talk about the war is a war. People don't have to be afraid of a war in every situation, but they were afraid of these crimes that were committed. For instance, my father told me that during the Second World War, a group of Germans, company strength, logistics, they lost their way and they were in Pacetina. And they stayed there for about 2 months. And he said, had things stayed that way throughout the war, nobody would have left. The Ustašas didn't dare enter Pacetin because the Germans were there and nothing ever happened. But then as soon as the Germans left, then the Ustašas came back and bad things happened.
Imali nekog...
Question. Did you have a special reason to be afraid from the proclamation of an independent Croatia at that time? Answer. Well, first of all, I did not believe that that could have been proclaimed, but I did have reasons. How could I stay in that state? I did not see my future there at all. I did not know that all of these things that have happened, entering the European Union, having democracy, etc., I had no way of knowing that that would happen, but it was very hard to understand what was going on. I was afraid, and I think that my fear was justified. The people that we called Ustašas while we were there 10 years before the war, they appeared in Croatia, and they were the loudest at the rallies of certain Croatian parties. They said that they would make their objectives come true, and that was a very painful thing for us.
Kad kažete da je to bilo...
Question, when you say that that was very painful for you, you say for us. That's what you said. Those are your words. Who do you mean by that? Us. Answer, I meant Serbs primarily, but also quite a few Croats who had these anti-fascist traditions, because my friends, other people I knew who are Croats, were strongly opposed to that policy.
Recite mi u to vreme kad se vodila ta...
Question, tell me, at the time of this election campaign, before the first multi-party elections and generally at the time, what was the atmosphere like in Croatia in general? Or rather, actually, what were interethnic relations like? Answer, well, then they started deteriorating. There was this euphoria of these pro-Croatian parties. There were several of them, but it was the HDZ that was dominant at the time. That's when these rallies started. And it wasn't only rallies for the sake of rallies. They even organized people who traveled to these rallies. There were columns of 100, 200 cars. They carried flags. They organized celebrations. Oxen were roasted, and all sorts of things were being said. I have to be clear on this. I met some people later, and some people I met here. They were not the same. Not all of them were the same. There were some normal people, some good people. But what we heard was the worst kind of information that one could hear.
Jel možete da nam malo detaljnije kažete?
Question, can you tell us in greater detail what were some of the things that could be heard at such gatherings or in such situations which caused the most concern on your part and the people who were close to you? Answer, well, the best known slogan was Croatia to Croats. Also, there have been enough Serb officials in Croatia, and the Croats were just working, which was not true. It wasn't only Serbs who were the directors or managers. Also, they were saying that Serbs could only work with shovels, meaning that they would not be in managerial positions any longer. Also, there were some messages that had to do with specific things related to liquidations. And we heard what was said by the TO and also arming, Špegel, etc. But all of this was before the arming.
A možete li da kažete kakva je...
Question, can you tell us what the situation was in terms of protection, police protection by those organs which are in a way duty-bound to protect the population from any kind of harassment? Answer, for example, in the municipality of Vukovar, in the police station, there were about 60 policemen who were among the best in the former Yugoslavia, upholding law and order. There were no problems whatsoever. After these pro-Croatian parties won, then hundreds of people came there. They got jobs in the police. I heard 500, but a policeman who testified here said that there were 700 of them in Vukovar. I find that incredible, but apparently it's true. These are people who were not professional policemen. They were of different backgrounds, and quite a few of them had criminal records too. They were immediately given automatic weapons. Up until 1990, actually, I had never seen a policeman with long-barreled weapons. I always saw policemen in uniform with pistols only. And all of a sudden, they started moving about in camouflage uniforms, and there were so many of them. And this caused a great deal of anxiety. And it wasn't only me, but many other people I talked to.
Recite mi, da li je bilo
Question, tell me. Was there any physical threat to citizens of Serb ethnicity? Answer, there were a lot of such threats. I was president of the SDS for the municipality of Vukovar, and people had no one to complain to, and then they came to me and complained, and I couldn't really do anything. But I heard that Serb houses and businesses were destroyed, had hand grenades thrown on them. Many cars were destroyed also. From cars, they would attack these Serb businesses and homes.
Samo bih vas zamolio kada odgovarate.
I would just like to ask you something. Do speak slowly when you answer. We have a bit of a problem with following all of this. Answer, this has not been finished in the translation. I said, unfortunately, even from police cars, this kind of thing. Well, I perhaps do not see this translation. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Interpreters note the pace is too fast.
Da, to je ispušteno, ali upravo
Question, yes, that has been left out, but the interpreters have told you just now that you do need to speak more slowly. Answer, I do apologize. Question, when you say that in your capacity as president of the SDS of Vukovar that people turn to you, can you explain why they turn to you? Why they turn to you as the president of a branch of a political party? Answer, I can explain. It was because we in Vukovar, within our political work in the municipality of Vukovar, we had inter-party meetings. So all the parties that had their own members in the assembly of the municipalities met once a week and tried to resolve problems. It was actually the HDZ and the SDS that really handled all of this, Mr. Tomislav Merčep and I. People could follow this in the media. So then people came to me and they complained and they asked me to exert my own influence at these meetings so that this kind of thing wouldn't happen to them.
A da li su vam ikad govorili?
Question. Did they ever tell you about asking the police for protection, the law enforcement? Answer. Well, they went to the police, but there were no results, and I went to the police at least once a week, and I complained because of these problems. As for these people that I talked to, I saw that they were honorable and that they were well-intentioned. However, most of these other policemen did this on their own because the people I talked to were pre-war policemen.
Ako samo možemo da malo
Question. Let us try to explain this a bit. This last sentence of yours. Actually, the last answer you provided. You said that you went to talk to the policemen, about once a week. And that most of these other policemen did that on their own. Can you explain this just a bit? Who was it that you contacted and who did things on their own? Answer, well, yes, it's unclear the way I put it, yes.
I tad je meni pomalo bilo nejasno.
Although it was a bit unclear to me at the time too, I talked to officials at the police station in Vukovar. Some of them had been newly appointed and others were from the old system. However, for the sake of the truth, I have to admit that these were not bad people, ill-intentioned, the people I talked to. So my conclusion was that they did not have any control over those people who were creating problems, and that they were not in a position to solve these crimes, because this was some kind of a secret policy, if you will, clandestine.
Možete li da mi kažete
Question. Can you tell us when did you become a member of the SDS? When did you join the SDS? Answer, well, I joined at the end of May 1990.
a kako je do toga došlo?
Question, how did that happen? Answer, well, when the HDZ won, as I've already said, on the 6th of May, 1990, I, like most of my friends who were ethnic Serbs, realized that we had no one to represent us before the Croatian authorities, and that the interests of the Serb people are not being put into the background, but even further away than that. And then a friend gave me the program of the Serb Democratic Party, and I saw that there were some positions there that I agreed with. The main thing was that they were in favor of Yugoslavia and also the rights of the Serbs within Croatia, because at the time, within Croatia, Serbs did not have any rights whatsoever, in the sense in which minority peoples have in other states, or as Serbs have in Croatia now, although they're a minority. Perhaps it is important for me to point out now that I, as a Serb from Pačetin, I always felt that Croatia was my country. That is interesting and that is true. And it is with pride that I felt that way. I mean, I have nothing against Croats. I still have many Croat friends, say from Bosnia-Herzegovina, and now they have more of a right to Croatia than I do, whereas Croatia has been my homeland and the homeland of my family for over 300 years. Croatia used to be the homeland of both us and the Croats. When the conflict started, the Croats wore badges saying Croatia is my homeland, and a relative of mine made a similar badge but without Croatian symbols and said Croatia is my homeland too. And that was the truth. Now, unfortunately, Croatia is no longer my homeland.
Kada ste
Question. When you joined the Serb Democratic Party,
Zivanovic, excusez-moi.
Councillor Jovanovic, excuse me. I would like to go back to the question of political parties. Witness. Correct me if I'm wrong. During the elections, if I understood you well, there were two principal or two most powerful political parties that ran in Vukovar. There was the HDZ, the Croatian Democratic Union, and there was also the Serbian Democratic Party. If I understood you properly, the Croatian Democratic Union was in favor of the independence of Croatia, whereas the Serbian Democratic Party worked towards keeping Serbia and Croatia in the Yugoslav Federation. If I understood you properly, the Serbs who wanted to stay in an independent Croatia didn't have any other choice but to join and become members of the HDZ, which means the party which was known as the Croatian Democratic Union, whereas the Croats who wanted Croatia as a member of the Federation of Yugoslavia did not have another choice but to join the Serbian Democratic Party. Did I understand you properly? Were there only the two parties that I mentioned, or were there any other possibilities? You didn't understand me properly, but it must be my mistake. Probably I didn't explain things too well. During the elections in Vukovar, there was no Serbian party because the Serbian party of Vukovar was established only after the elections. The main parties that ran in Vukovar was the Croatian Democratic Union. You understood that properly, and the SDP, the Party of Democratic Changes. It was the successor of the League of Communists of Croatia. It was also a Croatian party. Most of its members were Serbs, but also Croats who were in favor of staying in Yugoslavia. When the Croatian constitution changed, most of our members of the SDP, joined the HDZ and opted for an independent state of Croatia, which is why I felt cheated and betrayed. And that's why we established the municipal board of the Serbian Democratic Party of Vukovar. When Croats were with us, we did not need a Serbian party. I personally would not have established it. There was no need for it. When it comes to the Serbian Democratic Party, it ran during the elections in Knin, in that part of Croatia, not in Eastern Slavonia. Have I been of any assistance? Did you understand me better now? Judge Mindo, thank you very much. Now it's clear. So the Serbian Democratic Party was born after the constitution was changed in Croatia and actually made Croatia into an independent state. Is that it? Answer, no, not after. It was in parallel. After Croatian nationalists won the elections, there was a new constitution, and that happened after that. Question, thank you very much.
Mikrofon.
Microphone, please.
Sorry. Da bismo ovo pitanje još
In order to clarify things a little bit more, could you please tell us when was the Serbian Democratic Party established in Croatia? Answer, it was in February 1990 in Knin. Question. And what about its board in Vukovar? When was that established? On the 10th of June 1990 in Vukovar.
na
In the municipality of Vukovar, did the Serbian Democratic Party ran in the local elections in Vukovar? Answer, no, because it had not been established yet. Question, did that party participate in the Republican election, which covered the entire state of Croatia in 1990? Answer, yes, it did, but only in the western part of Croatia around Knin. It did not participate in Vukovar, Osijek, or Vinkovci. It did not have its candidates. It did not participate in the elections. Question, do you remember whether the Serbian Democratic Party in Knin, the one that you have just mentioned, win a certain number of seats in the Croatian parliament? Answer, yes, it did. I believe a total of 5 or perhaps 6. I think it was 5. Question. And in the municipal elections in Vukovar, which two parties were the main runners or competitors, as it were, in 1990? Answer, there was the HDZ, the Croatian Democratic Union, and the SDP, the Party of Democratic Changes, headed by Ivica Račan. The HDZ's leader was Franjo Tudjman. Question. Just one more question. Can you just briefly tell us who Ivica Račan was? Answer, Ivica Račan is a late Croatian politician. He headed the Croatian League of Communists at the moment when democratic changes in Croatia were taking place.
I da li je on bio
Was he also the president of the SDP, i.e. the Party for Democratic Changes? Answer, yes. The Croatian League of Communists simply changed its name and became the SDP. Question. Can you tell us whether the SDS, the Serbian Democratic Party, established some other branches, say for the one in Vukovar? And I'm talking about Slavonija, Baranja, and Western Srem, when I ask you this. Answer, it did establish branches in all the municipalities in Slavonija, Baranja, and Western Srem. In Osijek, Vinkovci, Beli Manastir, and obviously in Vukovar.
Hoćete mi reći
how did it happen that you were later elected as the president of the branch office of the SDS in Vukovar? It was quite unexpected. I had really worked hard, but at that time my educational level was low. My employment record was not that impressive, so I didn't really believe that I would be elected by the people. However, as a result of all those activities and seriousness in my work, I was put forth as a candidate, and that's how things happen. We are in open session. I don't want to talk about my competitors who ran against me, and in any case, that has nothing whatsoever to do with politics.
Dok ste bili
While you were a deputy in the municipality of Vukovar, you had some meetings, you said it yourself, with the political representatives of the HDZ, and you mentioned Tomislav Merčep. Could you please tell us what the purpose of those meetings was? Why were they needed? Answer. The main reason, the only reason, was to reduce tensions, to calm the situation down, because the situation was getting out of hand completely. Let me just explain for the trial chamber. It's very difficult to understand. Try to imagine a situation where villages are mixed, and in many of those villages, half of the villagers are Serbs, the other half are Croats, and they hold opposing views, and then they go into the same bars and they start dueling verbally, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. And it's all about ethnicity, about ethnic issues, and so on and so forth. Question: what was the result of those meetings between you, representatives of the SDS on the one hand, and the HDZ on the other? Answer: I must admit that at first I cooperated with Merčep quite well. However, later, as the tendency was more obvious, and it became more and more clear that Croatia wanted to leave Yugoslavia, our friendship kind of broke. We could not speak at the same level when problems were compounded. And those meetings were also attended by representatives of the Croatian Assembly. One of them was Mr. De Gorizia. He came to Vukovar often. He was the president of the Parliamentary Commission for Cooperation with Municipalities. I believe that that was his position in the Croatian Parliament. Question: I'm now going to show you the document that you may remember. It was shown already during the trial. It's P61.50.
Da li se sećate ovog dokumenta?
Do you remember this document? Answer: yes, I do. Question: tell me, please, do you recognize your signature on this document? Answer: yes, I recognize my signature and my handwriting. Everything that is handwritten was written by me. The document is in the Latin script, and my signature is in the Cyrillic script. Question: do you remember whether You have seen the stamp before and the date. You can see the stamp at the bottom of the document, don't you? Do you remember who stamped the document? Did you go somewhere and handed the document to somebody? Answer yes. In our official capacity, we went to the municipality of Vukovar, which was still in the Republic of Croatia, and we handed the document over to the Croatian officials. This is an official Croatian stamp. Nothing irregular about that stamp at all. Question: could you please read the date on the stamp, i.e., the date that you entered yourself? Answer: it's the same date, the 14th of August 1919, and it is also on that same day that this document was received by the recipient. Question: and now can you please look at the top part of the document where it says Narodne novine, the official gazette, at the very top of the page? Answer: yes, I can see that. Question: it says here official gazette. I suppose that this was an official gazette of Croatia at the time. Answer: yes. Question: can you please look at the date on the left hand side of the document? Answer: yes. Question: can you please explain the discrepancy? How come that the document which was handed on the 14th of August 1990 and received on that same date actually came from the official gazette, which was published on the 25th of June 1990? Answer: it's really hard to explain. It's almost impossible. I suppose I don't have the right to say that here, but I don't have an explanation. Question: before the trial, did you see this in the official gazette? Answer: no. Question: in other words, you saw it the first time when it was shown to you here in the courtroom? Answer: yes. Never before. Question: and now, could you please tell me, at the time when you were a deputy in the municipality of Vukovar, who was its president? Who had been elected as its president? Answer: Slavko Dokmanović. Question: was Slavko Dokmanović a member of the SDS? Answer: no, he was not. Question: answer: not at that time. He probably became a member in 1995, not earlier than that, but I really can't remember. Question: when he was elected as the president of the Municipal Assembly of Vukovar, was Dokmanović a member of any political party at all? Answer: yes, he was a member of the same party as me, the SDP. Question:
I see, Your Honor, that we have just 1 minute left.
If this is an appropriate time,
Yes.
Mr. Sivanovic, thank you. Mr. Hadžić, this is the end of today's hearing. You know that you're still under oath. You know that means, from experience here in the courtroom, you certainly know that means that you cannot talk about your testimony to anybody. And we laid out the possibilities of having contact with your counsel in a decision that has been filed by now. So we will see you again tomorrow at 9. Thank you. Court adjourned.
All rise. Vive la vie.